It's a feeling you get when something's not quite right, but you can't quite place it. That unsettling sensation, like when you walk into a room and immediately feel like you've been there before, but you haven't. For Alice and Mark Matthews, that feeling began the moment they stepped foot into the old, dusty mansion they had inherited from a relative they never knew existed. What they thought was a blessing soon turned into a nightmare that would haunt them forever. Whisper to your ear. Chapter 1: The Inheritance. Alice Matthews had always considered herself an ordinary woman. A loving wife to Mark and a school teacher in a small town, her life was peaceful, at least, until that day when she received a letter from a law firm she had never heard of. The letter stated that a distant relative, an eccentric aunt named Lydia, had passed away and left them her entire estate. The strange thing was that Alice had never even known Lydia existed. Curiosity piqued, and despite Mark's skepticism, they decided to visit the mansion. It was located on the outskirts of town, hidden away by overgrown trees and an iron gate that seemed to creak even in the absence of wind. The house itself was magnificent, but the kind of magnificence that felt cold, foreboding. It was a relic of another time, with towering windows, grand hallways, and a heavy, oppressive silence that made the house feel like it was holding its breath. When they first entered, it was like stepping into the past. The house was filled with old furniture, yellowed portraits, and faded tapestries. It was as if time had stopped there, suspended between generations. But the thing that caught Alice's eye the most wasn't the grand staircase or the antique furniture. It was the mirror in the attic. Mark had already begun exploring the first floor when Alice ventured up to the attic, a small, dusty room filled with boxes and forgotten treasures. In the corner of the room, hidden behind a heavy cloth, stood a large, ornate mirror. Its frame was gold, intricately carved with swirling patterns that resembled ancient symbols. The glass was unusually clear, despite the dust, and Alice felt an inexplicable pull toward it. Chapter 2: The First Vision. At first, Alice chalked up the sensation to curiosity. She was just overwhelmed by the strangeness of the house, right? But as she stood in front of the mirror, she felt something wrong. It wasn't the mirror itself, but what was reflected in it. Instead of seeing her own reflection, she saw something else. A dark, shadowy figure stood behind her. Alice spun around, but there was no one there. Her heart raced, and she shook the feeling off, deciding it was just her imagination. But when she turned back to the mirror, the figure was still there. This time, it wasn't just a shadow. It was a man, tall, dressed in a black suit, his face obscured by shadows. And then, she saw something that made her blood run cold. The reflection of the man lifted a hand, pointing directly at her. Alice stepped back, feeling lightheaded. She didn't know whether to scream or laugh at herself for being so frightened. But something deep inside her told her she wasn't imagining it. Chapter 3: Unearthing the Secrets. Later that night, as they settled in with dinner in the grand dining room, Alice told Mark about the strange experience. At first, Mark didn't believe her. He laughed it off, saying it was probably a trick of the light or a simple case of too much imagination. But Alice couldn't shake the image of the man in the mirror. The next day, Alice began researching the house's history. She scoured through old newspapers and legal documents, and after hours of digging, she uncovered something horrifying. Lydia, her late aunt, had been obsessed with the mirror. According to old records, the mirror had been passed down through generations of the family, each new owner experiencing strange and terrifying events. But there was something else that caught Alice's attention. Every family member who had owned the mirror had met an untimely death. And in every case, their deaths had been preceded by visions in the mirror. Determined to find out more, Alice returned to the attic. She stood before the mirror once again, her heart pounding. This time, she wasn't going to back down. As her reflection stared back at her, the room seemed to grow colder, the shadows deepening. And then, just as before, the figure appeared behind her. But this time, it wasn't a man. It was her. Her reflection grinned at her, a twisted, malicious smile that made her stomach churn. And then she saw it, the future. In the mirror, Alice saw herself, lying lifeless on the floor, a pool of blood spreading out from her body. The image was so vivid, so real, that she stumbled back, gasping for breath. But when she blinked and looked again, the reflection was gone. It was just her, staring back. Chapter 4: The Descent into Madness. Over the next few days, Alice's obsession with the mirror grew. She couldn't stop thinking about it, couldn't escape the haunting images it showed her. She tried to tell Mark, but he just thought she was losing her mind. It wasn't just the death, it was the feeling of inevitability. The mirror didn't show her just any future. It showed her the one she was destined to die in. No matter what she did, the mirror always revealed the same fate. As Alice's mind spiraled, she began to see the man in the reflection more and more. His face was still obscured, but she knew he was coming for her. One night, after tossing and turning in her sleep, Alice awoke to find the man standing at the foot of her bed. She couldn't scream, couldn't move. He was too close, too real. He reached out toward her, and as his fingers brushed her skin, the world seemed to fade. In that moment, she saw her own death once again, this time with crystal clarity. The mirror was more than just a reflection. It was a portal to fate. Chapter 5: The Final Choice. Mark, now fully aware that something was terribly wrong, insisted that they leave the house. But Alice couldn't. She couldn't leave the mirror behind, couldn't escape the vision of death that haunted her. She had to understand what it meant. She had to know if it was real. On the final night, as Mark packed their things, Alice made her way back to the attic. The mirror was waiting for her, just like it always had. She stood before it, facing the dark figure that had haunted her for so long. This time, the reflection spoke.
"You can't run from your fate,"
the figure whispered.
"You can't change what's already been written."
But as the figure moved closer, Alice made her choice. With trembling hands, she shattered the mirror with a heavy brass candlestick. The house shook, the walls groaning as if they were alive. The dark figure screamed, a sound that seemed to echo through time itself, and then silence. Epilogue: The New Heir. Months later, Mark and Alice's lives had returned to normal. The mansion had been sold, the haunting images fading from her memory. But as they stood in their new home, unpacking boxes, Alice felt a chill. She turned to Mark, a feeling gnawing at her gut. She looked in the mirror on the wall and saw the man again, his shadow lurking just behind her. But this time, Alice was no longer afraid. Sometimes, breaking the mirror isn't enough. Sometimes, the past is just waiting for you to look into it once more. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button, subscribe for more nightmares, and share with someone brave enough to watch alone. See you. Bye.